Thank you, thank you. What a privilege to be here. Your attention means the world. I don't think you have anything more valuable to give than your attention and your time, so I really appreciate it. So Life is Good is the original positive lifestyle brand. My brother and I started making t-shirts together 32 years ago, and our mission is simple, to spread the power of optimism. A lot of people think about optimism and sort of put it in the category of the soft stuff, but we don't. The operative word in that mission, spread the power of optimism, is power. We actually believe that optimism gives us access to 10 superpowers, and that's the whole philosophy for Life is Good. So one of those superpowers is simplicity. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the world has become incredibly complex. Okay, it's hard to remember all our passcodes. Everything is complex, and simplicity is powerful. So I'm going to attempt to, I think we would all agree that the last 2 years would be hard to sum up in 10 slides, 20 slides. I'm going to attempt to, with one visual, to summarize the last 2 years. Are you ready? This is my first trick. Are you ready? I mean, let's face it, your staff has not been wearing pants when they're talking to you, okay? And they love it, especially the ones that didn't get the promotion. They're sitting there with a straight face on, but they got no pants on, and you know it. It's true that we learn better when we have fun and when we laugh, okay? Sometimes people say, how do you remember those lines from a movie, etc.? We're relaxed. You're there to be entertained. When we think that we're there to, dig in and learn something important, we tense up, okay? So let's have some fun. Fun is a superpower, and humor is a superpower. Let's see if conscious capitalisms can catch without any instruction. Yes! 1 for 1. So my second trick, I'm going to attempt something that I never have attempted. I'm going to try to tell the story of the history of our planet, or our species, and I'm going to do that from a t-shirt guy's perspective, okay? Very simple. So this is Earth. It's 4.5 billion years old. This is where our species started, somewhere in East Africa. Where that pinpoint is exact. I know it's exact because during the Patriots and Buccaneers football game the other night, I consulted with my 2 friends. Glenn is a house painter, and he's very knowledgeable about these things. And my other friend makes t-shirts too, and we talked about it. Not that much, because the game was exciting. And we determined that that's where it was. If you ask me why didn't we invite anthropologists, because those guys know a lot about these kind of things, anthropologists are not fun to watch a football game with. The next thing that happened in the history of the world is that we moved all over the place. We left Africa and we went everywhere, and we put fences up, and we thought we were different from each other, and we fought each other. And we determined that only a few people would have power, the kings and the queens. Everybody else would have no power, and they would have no wealth. And it worked for a period of time, but I think as we know now, if any system is going to work, we're going to have to share a little better than that. And the promise that the king and queen had this divine access to the wealth and power was a story that didn't last. The next power that came along was the church, and the church promised something that was more valuable. The church promised that everyone, including the poor, could enter this special place, and that we were all equal. The problem is the church used a lot of fear tactics, and they built a lot of guilt, and over time, that power went away too, that institution. And the next thing that came along was governments, okay? And governments have been in power for a long time, okay? And governments, they've fallen prey at times to corruption, etc. But I think the t-shirt guy's perspective is they haven't been innovative enough. They really haven't. And I don't know if you know this, but in this century, the 21st century, it's the first time in the history of the world where more power statistically is with a different institution. It's called business. Business is where the power is these days, and statistically that is true. I checked with my friend Glenn and Scotty. It's true. It's true from a standpoint of touch points, communication, influence over people, and dollars. First time in the history of the world. We, you guys, us, we're connecting with more people. That means we have a massive responsibility. So what do? Well, some wise person said long ago that if we can understand the past, it whispers to us where we should go. So when I look at the past, something jumps out at me. The great leaders of the past were optimists, okay? And if you doubt this, right, the great leaders of the past were always, during hard times, could see some beautiful thing on the horizon and drove people towards that. The high majority of people are sheep. They will not go on their own. They need somebody to lead and see something beautiful that's ahead. Imagine the women's movement. Imagine 500 years ago being a female. Almost everyone said, we'll never get anywhere. It's awful. The whole world is sexist, and it was. But a few made little steps. And the fact that there are so many women here proving that they can do as much and more than men we owe it to those early women, those early optimists. So it becomes glaring. And if you doubt this idea about history, then I challenge every single person in this room to bring me the great list of pessimists in history. Bring me that list. Because I can give you an endless list of great optimists across any field and industry, right? And sometimes then people will say, well, realism is my thing. I'm not an optimist, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. Okay, pessimism, we probably agree, is corrosive to organizations or individuals. It's about making lists of how things could go wrong. It's not effective at building things, and it's certainly not fun, okay? So we're on the optimism side here, but the realism side is better. I'll admit, it's much better. The problem with realism is it lacks imagination. Optimists have to imagine something that doesn't exist. This is the first powerful optimist in my life. Her name's Joan. She's my mom. And she and my dad raised 6 kids. They had about enough money for 2 kids, right? But they raised 6. There's no pictures of my childhood because I'm number 5, right? My mom suffered with depression herself. My dad suffered terribly with depression. My dad became so depressed that it was almost every day he was yelling and screaming around our house. He was never a bad person. He just lost his shit. He really did. He lost it. He was a great guy. When I look at the photos, and it was just my older sisters or a couple of my older brothers, my dad's this strapping young guy. He's smiling. He's got the kids on his shoulders. Pictures of the house. The house is painted. The lawn is cut. That ain't the house I grew up in. The house was in shambles by the time we got there, and it had its benefits. I could kind of not come home when I was in 4th grade, which was great. That's a different story. My mom coped with her depression and the dysfunction of our home in different ways than my dad, okay? My mom sang. She danced. She told stories. She laughed her ass off. She had a scary, booming laugh. Adults, it was contagious. Kids were scared to death. They'd run away, right? And my mom had, when she told bedtime stories, she acted out the characters. She crawled around the floor and showed you her teeth. And as little kids, we were scared. And then we'd get up in the middle of the story and dance with her in the story. And then we'd crawl back in bed and just beg for more. It was beautiful storytelling. She was brilliant at it. And maybe the greatest gift she gave us was a ritual at the dinner table. She'd look around at her 6 kids and say, tell me something good that happened today. And that was the inspiration for Life is Good. We didn't know it at the time, but she showed us something powerful. She told us by doing this, you're not the victims. This house is not perfect, right? This house is not easy, but you have strengths, and you have each other, and you have friends, and tomorrow's going to be a good day, and something funny happened at school, so let's hear about it, and let's laugh together, and we'll have music after dinner. She did that every day, and she showed us that the energy you bring to the table every day is powerful, and you have to determine which team you're going to be on, the pessimists, the realists, or the optimists. And history shows us that the optimists are the leaders that bring us to a better world. And that's the missing ingredient, the magic dust for a lot of smart people, innovative people, catalysts that don't make it. Something happens. They have to recognize strategically, and I want you all to recognize that part of your strategy is to be a rational optimist. I say rational because it's not pie in the sky like every day's ice cream and let's just throw frisbees and all that, right? It is time to throw a frisbee. Okay. Yes! Conscious capitalism's 2 for 2. So if we were smart, my brother and I, if we were smarter and faster and stronger, we would have taken those ideas from our mom and got on the road and created Life is Good. We didn't. We spent 5.5 years traveling in that van, sleeping in that van, selling door to door. We had interesting artwork. It was mostly abstract, and sales sucked. We just weren't doing that well, right? And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, we had this depressing conversation about how the media inundates us with negative information, always teaching us the opposite of what Joan taught us at the dinner table, which is that we're going to hell in a handbag, things are getting worse, you might as well get out of it now, it's worse than ever, etc. Which isn't true. It absolutely isn't true. And I really don't care if you watch Fox News or CNN. They're both full of shit. They're absolutely both full of shit. They are politically aligned, they have an objective, and they're filtering it. And we get very little news, because bad things do happen. I'm not denying that. But good things happen too, and we don't get a balance. Nobody just tells you the news. And it's frustrating. So we had that discussion, but what optimists do is they often see obstacles, and they say the best way to work with that obstacle is search for the opportunity. And the opportunity for us was this positive lifestyle brand. There were all these other brands we admired. Nike was about winning, and Ralph Lauren was about affluence, and we thought, what's our thing? And then we realized, man, maybe our thing is we just like to have a good time. And our disposition is powerful. And if we look at the world, right, we're not good guys and happy people because we're rich or we're perfect or we're smart or we're good looking or anything like that. It's based on how we view the world. We're grateful for what we see. There's a lot of opportunity around us. So what if? So we make our first t-shirts. Now, in those days when we had an idea, you print 48 t-shirts. That was an investment for us. And not our own label or anything. We'd take a Hanes Fruit of the Loom t-shirt. We'd go to a local screen printer, print 48 t-shirts, and that day we'd get in the street and sell them. And it was a good way to test it out. These days I always talk to small companies. They're doing focus groups for 4 years, and they got all this complex. I'm like, you need to get out and do something, you know. They just too much with the data. And so it was enough. Our friends liked the idea. This is a picture of my brother in the street in front of McDonald's, and we sold 48 t-shirts in 45 minutes. So that might not sound like a big deal, but it used to take us 2-3 weeks to sell 48 t-shirts. 45 minutes, we didn't know what to do. We knew we had it. It was magic. There were people from all walks of life buying it. And so we said, what do? We started selling the t-shirts to retailers for the first time. And the first woman named Nancy down in Cape Cod, she called us after the first week. She said, guess what? I sold all 24 shirts with Jake. It's just Jake's face and it says, Life is Good. I got a question for you. Remember, we're next to an ice cream shop. I said, yeah. She said, well, does Jake eat ice cream? I said, no, but he will. And Jake started eating ice cream. And the ice cream Jake sold more than the first one. You can't make this shit up. And then what happens is people started asking for the next things. Does Jake play? I love to play guitar. Does Jake play guitar? Nice thing about a fictitious character is he can do anything. Jake starts playing guitar. All of a sudden the guitar. Now he's gardening and he's climbing mountains and swimming and doing anything that's healthy, and our business starts to grow. So we didn't know what we were doing operationally. We were shipping the t-shirts out of our kitchen. In 5 years, it was a $3 million business. I think my brother and I thought we were in heaven. Like $3 million business is unbelievable. A very unexpected thing happened then. We started to get mail from our customer base. And I'm going to read you a letter. It comes from one of these boys. We started to get hundreds and then thousands of letters, and they weren't always from people who were just on Easy Street. You know, you get pictures from people at the beach, and that's nice, or they're riding in their Jeep or whatever it is, but we got a lot of mail from people who were facing adversity. And this is one of our favorites. Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I have a brother, Nick, and we are 10.
We both have extra challenges in the world, but at the end of the day, we still have each other. We were both born early and weighed only 1 pound, so we had a lot of growing to do. When I was born, I had my leg amputated. Nick is legally blind. Me and Nick have all of your shirts with the things we like doing best. But if you ask us what we do best and what makes us happy and laugh the most, it's just being together. I now know that Nick has more challenges than I do. I think it's my favorite sentence because he's 10. I now know, like he's been around the world. You know, we're in our whatever we are here, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, trying to figure it out. He's got it figured out, 10 years old. I now know that Nick, by the way, when I was looking at you, I was thinking 30s. I now know that Nick has more challenges than I do, but he says and does things that make me laugh and forget feeling bad. I don't know how to describe it other than I love him. You're lucky to have a brother too. It's very important that I point out that he doesn't know my brother. I hope you do fun things together, your friends Alex and Nick. See, you get a letter like that, and it changes you. I mean, we didn't know what to do with it for a year and a half. We read it to each other. We read it to our brothers and sisters and friends. We didn't know what to do with it. And then we decided what we would do. What I wanted to point out is that these Frisbees, they retail for $15, but I signed them. So now they're worth $5. Oh! Extra points! Extra points! That is the first major collaboration of this year's summit. So we decided that what their letter was about, they didn't even ask for a free t-shirt. Here's a tip. If you ever write Life is Good, ask for a free t-shirt because we do it. We send it to you, right? Like who wouldn't when you send a letter like that? But they didn't even ask for it. They weren't the victims. One kid's got one leg, right? One kid can't see, but they were just celebrating life. They were like, hey, let's get together. Let's hang out. Isn't things great, right? And we were so blown away, we said, it's about gratitude, you know, and they taught us. And we said, let's make that, because people were in our ear about how to build the business, and we didn't have any academic back. Neither of us went to business school, but friends were like, you need to have values for the business. And so we were trying to piece that together. And as these people were writing us, that was the first one, gratitude. We said, gratitude will be part of Life is Good, so let's start putting it on t-shirts, like I'm wearing one today. And those kids changed it. They authored the story with us. They co-authored. And so we made shirts that just said grateful. And guess what? A lot of human beings want to walk around with a t-shirt that says grateful. It wasn't that popular when we started doing it. It's more popular now. That's a good thing for humanity. And, you know, the idea that these kids are grateful, I mean, think about what we complain about. We say, I can't. I have to do the laundry. It's 2021. This is how you do the laundry. You put the shit in, and you press a button. And the machine does the laundry. Oh, I'm so tired. But we complain. We actually go, I've got to go grocery shopping. Oh, you walk in, and there's a plethora of food from all over the world, and you just pull it out, and you have enough money to buy whatever you want in there. You poor thing. Imagine what our ancestors would say of us. Oh, my God, they're so soft, it's ridiculous. Gratitude. And what happened as the business grew and we made t-shirts about gratitude, other people wrote us letters about other timeless values. And when we had enough people write us about compassion, we said compassion's on the list, right? Certainly people were writing us about love, being exactly who you are. Who was speaking earlier, said be yourself up here, 100%. And they also said be open. Openness is powerful. Optimists are like this. Pessimists are like this. It's a great visual metaphor. Little children are like this. They're not afraid, they're open. As we get older, we get taught to be like this. It's not healthy. If we're going to be leaders in this world, let's not be afraid. And we'll help each other. We'll fall down, but we have to be open. These are the values. That's whatever you want to call it, the cliff notes of anything I have to say. These are the values that came to us year after year, day after day. People who bought Life is Good wrote about those things. So we started making t-shirts about those things too. That's it. That is the whole, your great-great-great-grandparents. And again, if we go back to the kings and queens, raise your hand if one of your relatives was the kings or queens of Scotland or Africa or anywhere else. Nobody, okay? So we were the poor ones. Your ancestors were poor, okay? We were all dirt poor. And the values that got them through are right there. And the values, we're not a trendy company. This is not trendy stuff. I was talking to somebody earlier. Do I look like I'm in the fashion industry? No, we're not. We don't know it. You got to make a t-shirt in the right cut, in the right size, the right color, whatever. We will die not knowing anything about fashion or really retail that much. The vehicle is a tool. The t-shirt is a vehicle for communication. It's a tool to connect with people. And what people are willing to wear on the outside of their shirt says a lot about who they are on the inside. That's it. The t-shirts with print on them haven't been around that long if we're doing history of the world. The 1960s, in the world wars, it was popularized to put sleeves on a t-shirt because they wanted to hide the uncouth armpits. No one should ever see an armpit. Okay, thank God the world's changed, right? But what happened was after the war, people started printing things on it. It's that recent, right? But for us, it actually happens to be probably the biggest part of the whole t-shirt industry. Everyone in the world's got a closet full of t-shirts. So we stumbled into something that's a good business. It's a good tool. But to us, it's much more about the emotional connection than it is about the product. So shortly after that, we decided, since the most inspiring letters came from children, that we would honor all the children. And for every $10 in profit we made, we'll give one to our own Kids Foundation. And the Kids Foundation works with children that face trauma from violence and poverty. And we also work in oncology departments. Because if some kid lives in a neighborhood where there's drive-bys and her life is in danger, it's not so different than this kid over here who's got cancer. If something threatens a kid's life, what's the difference? These people that you see in those photos with the kids, they're what we call the Life is Good playmakers. They make a child feel safe and loved. Because those kids, if they don't have a relationship with an adult that makes them feel safe and loved, they will end up dead by the time they're 12 or 13, in a gang, which might be the same thing. They might take their own life. If they're female, they'll be pregnant before they're 13 or 14 years old. Incarceration's likely. And ordinary people like us will look at that kid by the time they're 15 and say they're a bad kid. They're a bad seed. The innocent kids you see in those pictures are the same kids that people label a bad seed only a few years later. So we're not trying to save those kids' lives. We're trying to build powerful optimists. We're trying to get them to see that the dark things they've seen are not the only thing, and that people do love them and that they're powerful. And when we started, it was 16 kids in the first year, and I think someone mentions it's over 1 million kids now. And as our business grows capitalistically, the nonprofit social work is growing right with it. All ships rise. And so we deeply believe that you have to embed your cause, whatever that is, in your work and make it easy for yourself. Our t-shirts are about emotional health. So let's make the social work about emotional health. We don't give these families food. We don't give them shelter. We don't give them medicine. We deal with their psyche, their disposition. It's the same thing. We don't know anything else. This is all we know. You know something. That's what you should use. I think people try to pull you in 1,000 directions. We interviewed lots of CEOs before making these decisions. The number one regret was we had too many causes. 3, 4, 5 causes. Somebody got breast cancer. We had a softball tournament. We had to anniversary it. And next thing you know, we were making millions. But we're a software company, so we wanted to develop for developing countries. And then, they're all over the place. One of the most powerful things about all this happening as we stumbled along is that our retention rate is higher than anyone in our industry. It's very, very strong. We pay people probably average, We like to have fun at work and you get to bring your dog. But the real reason is because they're proud of where they work. They love what they do. Not just because they like what we put on the t-shirts. They like the fact that if you work in the IT department or the marketing department and you do a good job, you're saving a kid's life. And when the weekend comes, you can go to the football game with your boyfriend. You don't have to go volunteer because you feel guilty because you've been just making money. No, by making money over here, you're also growing an organization that's going to help more and more people. And our customer base understands it. We didn't figure it all out. I use the word stumble. I'm not being humble. We've been stumbling all along. I don't know who this kid is, but just look at his face. He just sent us his personal story and sent this t-shirt that just came out. How simple and how beautiful. I don't know him, but who doesn't want to know that guy? He's just a great guy. We got a community of powerful optimists. They're the best people in the world. I think conscious capitalism has to embrace optimism as a central element of what we do if we're going to accomplish everything we think we can. Authenticity is a superpower, okay? So our customers have seen my brother and I make every mistake in the book. They have seen us fall down, do idiot things, make bad mistakes over and over, but they still love us and they still work with us. You know why? Because we take responsibility. We say, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I apologize. And I'll try not to do it again, and we learned a lesson. So we don't make the same mistakes, but it doesn't matter. They know who we are, we know who we are, and we act like it. Simple. When COVID hit, what do? You're a business that's about optimism, right? I got to tell you, we had the banks in, and we had conversations about bankruptcy, like a lot of people, because the wholesale was 50% of our business. And as you know, every door shut. And when every door shut, we said, oh, what do we do now? And we thought long and hard about it. We said, we need to make content about what's happening right now. So we started with the heroes that were on the front lines, and they embraced the heck out of it. And they sent us beautiful pictures, and we got it online, and everybody started supporting, and our sales started ripping. There's no way we're going to replace the whole wholesale, right? No way. Then we started making about behavior. What's the right side of behavior? So, what are the simple things that we need to do? And those t-shirts started going like crazy. And lots of people said, don't have too much fun because people are suffering, etc. You know what? You got to have fun and people need it. Who doesn't want to party with this guy? That guy's got a full lime in his glass. And I can't tell you how many of that t-shirt we sold. And you know something? Business took off. And in 2020, we did replace the wholesale business, and we didn't give it up. The wholesale business is coming back now strong, right? But during 2020, we had the best year in the history of our business. And as you can see, this is the trajectory of our whole business. When the recession hit, we're not bulletproof. Those retailers closed and we slid in the wrong direction for several years, but we're back. And we're back not because we're so smart. We're back because we have timeless values and because consumers are voting with their dollars in this century for what they care about, not just for a better product or a better price, okay? So don't listen to people when they tell you that's not the case. Consumers care, and they're smart, and they're getting smarter every day. This is a picture of Richard Branson and I. It's got nothing to do with my talk. I just wanted you to know I hang out with Richard Branson. Hey now. Yes! There's one Frisbee left. There's one Frisbee left. I always throw out Frisbees. My brother always throws out Frisbees. We have never had a crowd catch every single Frisbee. Oh my God! Guess who this is? This is the twin boys. And you know, we've been in business for a while. We never met a lot of these people, especially the young ones. Time relentlessly moves forward. It doesn't stand still. So in mine and Johnny's eyes, they're still the little boys. And so we had a conversation on the phone with their mom, who was our contact from the beginning. And she said, oh, we're going to be in Chicago. They live in Florida, but they were going to be in Chicago. And my brother and I were doing this road trip thing. It was our 20th anniversary or something of the business. And so we drove in and we met them. And when the kids showed up, I'm like, holy shit, they're young adults, right? And they're great. And the reason I put the photo in is because one kid still has one leg. And one kid still can't see. But one look at them and you can tell they're killing it. They are having a great life. They're not exceptional. The mom was telling me one kid got in trouble in school, etc. They're exceptional in that they have a brilliant disposition. They're wonderful people. They're enjoying the gift of life. And they didn't let those things hold them back. It's a miracle. And we sat down with them when we met all the people who wrote us these things, right? We wrote a book that has all this in it. It's called Life is Good, the book. My brilliant title. And so in the book, they're holding it there and they're on their page, right? So they were so thrilled to be in the thing. So people said, on our marketing team, what are you going to do? Are you going to give $1 million to the people? And I was like, no, I'm going to buy them a sandwich, So we sat down, we had a sandwich together, and we laughed our heads off. One kid my brother asked him, what do you tell people when they ask what happened to your brother's leg? He said, it was from birth, as you know. He said, I love to tell people that a shark took it. And my brother leans in, he goes, how long do you let them believe that? And he goes, as long as I can. I mean, they're just kids. Amazing. Look, life is good. After all these years, our distribution's still in the U.S. We're growing like a weed, but we're really ambitious about taking the social work and the for-profit globally. And we want to bring these ideas everywhere we go. We've learned along the way that you got to collaborate with each other. This whole thing is an incredible collaboration. It's a joy to be here with you guys. This is our little dream. I know all you guys have your little dreams. If we get together on this thing, we have the opportunity to kind of rebrand business. And I believe that business will be the hero of the 21st century. We just have to stick to those simple values. It's as simple as that. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay. Ready? Redo. Total redo. Oh, yeah.